While 12 consultants departed in frustration, it was the young janitor who in a mere minute unraveled the solution. What the single dad CEO chose to do next. Amidst the harsh, sterile glow of the 42nd floor, the vibrant vision boardroom transformed into a pressure chamber, stripping away the essence of leadership. The clock struck 11 p.m. The city beneath shimmered with a calm detachment, yet within the tempest had surged to its zenith. Ethan Peer stood with an air of determination at the head of the long, polished table. His jaw tightened, and the once vibrant brown of his eyes now appeared muted, weighed down by fatigue. At 34, he stood as a single father and the CEO of a rapidly ascending media tech company on the East Coast, embodying the essence of a man besieged. With sleeves rolled up and tie long forgotten, his voice, typically calm and measured, now quivered with frustration. A dozen consultants among the highest-paid experts in data infrastructure each took their turn to convey the same conclusion, albeit in varied expressions. Finding a solution proved to be anything but simple. Just days after its grand unveiling, their new platform found itself grappling with a disastrous data sync failure. Hundreds of thousands of users found themselves grappling with bugs, crashes, and the unfortunate loss of information. A consultant whispered it's a fundamental architecture failure. The only true way ahead is through a complete rebuild. That's a minimum of 3 weeks plus another added on. One might apply a temporary fix to gain a fleeting moment of respite, yet the user's suffering will persist unabated. Ethan placed his hands flat against the table's surface. Are we really just going to stand by and watch it all fall apart? No one answered. In that moment, he lost control. Am I truly hearing that is there truly not a single one among you capable of resolving this? The room hung heavy with silence. One by one, the consultants collected their belongings. Apologies slipped from lips in a hushed murmur. No one dared to meet Ethan's gaze. With a gentle click, the final door sealed shut behind them. In the eye of the tempest, he found himself solitary, when suddenly a voice emerged, gentle yet resolute, shattering the stillness that enveloped him. "Excuse me?" Ethan turned, a look of surprise crossing his face. A young woman lingered by the door, clad in a cleaning uniform, with a mop bucket stationed behind her. With her blonde hair gathered loosely, hands still glistening from the day's work, and eyes wide yet resolute, she stood ready. "I'm sorry," she said, stepping into the room, "but I think I know where the problem is." Ethan blinked, caught in a moment of disbelief, questioning whether the words he thought he had heard were indeed real. At the doorway stood the janitor, a young blonde, barely reaching 5 feet tall hands, still glistening with moisture from mopping, exuding a quiet resolve. The soft, steady hum of the overhead lights lingered in the air, the sole sound in the charged atmosphere of the room. For a brief moment, stillness enveloped the scene, and no one dared to stir. Every gaze was fixed upon her, some etched with skepticism, while others were rendered speechless, caught in a moment of sheer astonishment. Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady, yet tinged with curiosity. "What was that you just said?" The girl swallowed hard, her eyes darting around the room filled with weary professionals before settling back on him. She hesitated for a moment, gathering her courage, and then said, "I believe I know where the issue lies." Whispers started to circulate in the room, flowing like gentle waves against a fragile surface. One of the junior consultants raised an eyebrow. A tech lead in the back let out a quiet chuckle, but his amusement faded instantly as Ethan raised a hand. Once again, the room fell into silence. He nodded at her. "Proceed." Her name tag, still affixed at a slight angle to her worn polo, bore the name Clara. With a hesitant step, she entered the room, the faint squeak of her shoes echoing softly against the polished tile floor. With a measured step, she moved toward the whiteboard, an air of reverence enveloping her as if she were a dreamer, finally stepping into a long-held fantasy, uncertain yet hopeful that this moment was real. "May I?" she inquired, her hand poised delicately above a dry erase marker. With a subtle gesture, Ethan directed his attention to the board. "At this moment, we are fully attentive." With a steady hand, Clara unscrewed the cap of the marker, inhaled deeply, and set her imagination free on the page. Her lines conveyed a simplicity that was striking circles, arrows, boxes, void of equations and acronyms, revealing the essence of the issue in its most unadorned form. As she toiled, her voice wove a tale. "Imagine it as a file cabinet," she remarked, her voice gentle yet unwavering. Yet a folder found its way into the wrong drawer. In your quest to uncover it, you find yourself repeatedly led astray, time and time again. With a graceful motion, she traced a looping arrow that connected the two shapes. Here is where the cycle takes its first breath. The system finds itself caught in a cycle endlessly syncing outdated data. Rather than refreshing with new input, it stubbornly returns to the same invalid source trapped in a repetitive loop. Each time a user logs in or initiates an action request, they inevitably encounter the same barrier. With a deliberate motion, she inscribed yet another circle. With auto-sync engaged throughout the platform, it's as if all subsystems are making their calls at the same time, reminiscent of an entire company attempting to reach the same pizza place through a single landline. That elicited a wave of laughter, the kind that was not mocking. It was a release, the kind that followed hours, steeped in stress, when at last someone articulated the unnameable, the thing that eluded everyone else's grasp. Ethan entered the room, arms crossed, his expression a puzzle waiting to be solved. One of the senior engineers leaned in, his eyes narrowing with intent. Indeed, that captures the essence of a core loop error, even in the absence of the terminology. Clara offered a subtle nod, almost imperceptible. "You don't need to change a thing. Simply disable auto-sync for roughly 30 minutes, then proceed to re-index the master link structure. After that, carefully reintroduce the restore commands, ensuring they are executed in sequence rather than all at once." In a quiet corner of the room, a young developer sat, fingers flying over the keyboard as they executed test commands into the system with fervor. The others gathered closer, their eyes fixed on the monitors with an intensity akin to that of hawks in pursuit. Silence enveloped the room as if a spell had been cast, leaving no one with the courage to utter a word. Moments drifted by. Then the developer lifted their gaze, eyes filled with astonishment. "It's working," he exhaled softly. "The flow of data is finding its equilibrium." Gasps echoed through the air. Then a toast. Hands met backs with a hearty slap. One consultant gazed in astonishment. A programmer released a jubilant cheer. The tension broke and the room stirred once more, not in chaos but in a dazed jubilation. Yet Ethan remained silent. He remained still. He gazed at Clara as if encountering her anew. She remained still, the marker poised in her grip, her gaze cast downward. He approached her with a deliberate slowness, and when he finally spoke, his voice emerged soft and filled with reverence. "With a mere marker in hand and an abundance of courage, you have just become the savior of this company." With a gentle smile, Clara appeared modest and hesitant, her cheeks flushed with a soft shade of pink. "I'm uncertain whether I've managed to save anything at all. A memory just surfaced, one of something I once cherished deeply." And in that moment, for the first time all night, Ethan experienced a sensation that transcended mere relief. A wave of awe washed over him. The following morning, the excitement surrounding Bright Vision's headquarters lingered on. The engineers exchanged hushed tones, recalling the previous night when a janitor had unraveled the mystery of the data crash, a feat that had eluded 12 seasoned experts. Yet Ethan Pierce, the CEO, had no taste for idle chatter. He gazed at the glass wall of his office, observing the reflection of the woman who had just rescued his company. Clara lingered by the door, her custodial uniform feeling foreign and cumbersome, as if she were caught in a moment of hesitation, questioning her right to step inside. Ethan offered her a subtle nod, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. Please do come in." With a measured pace, she crossed the threshold. Though her posture remained reserved, her eyes still burned with the same steady fire they had displayed at the whiteboard. "I meant what I said last night," Ethan began. "Your assistance went beyond mere help. You came to our rescue." Clara offered a subtle smile, the sort that seemed to belong to someone unaccustomed to receiving such acknowledgement. "I just saw a pattern," she said, "something familiar." Ethan waved his hand toward the chairs invitingly. "Take a seat. I'm curious to know how a person with your intellect found themselves wielding a mop in our hallway." She paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. In that moment she seemed to weigh her options, and with a subtle shift she chose to lower her defenses and took a seat. Her voice carried a serene quality, yet each word felt like a deliberate tread through a landscape of sorrow. "I was a data science major," she began. "Northwell State, I excelled in it, I truly loved it. Yet my parents, they did not. My father is a surgeon, my mother works as a pharmacist. Technology was not an area they held in high regard, particularly when it came to their daughter. They referred to it as a boys' field." Ethan lifted his eyebrows in surprise. "Are you kidding me?" Clara gave a slight nod. "They hoped I would attend medical school, become a true professional. When I stood my ground and declined to change my major, they severed ties with me. He said I would be left to my own devices if I chose to squander my life." Ethan leaned forward, a silent tension hanging in the air, his lips pressed together, withholding words that danced just out of reach. He simply listened. "I endeavored to find a way to make it succeed, picked up various jobs tutoring waiting tables, anything that came my way, yet it fell short. The rise in tuition outpaced my ability to keep up. In my final year, I made the decision to drop out." Her fingers tightened around the material of her trousers. "What about this janitor position?" It arrived with consistent hours and coverage. "Allow me to continue my journey of reading and learning, despite the doubts of those who believed I was destined to remain stagnant." Ethan remained silent for what felt like an eternity. Then he remarked, "Indeed, they were mistaken. Allow me to present you with an opportunity, a position of authority, a technical consultant. Whether you prefer part-time or full-time, the decision is yours to make. Without a mop, the night shifts fade away." Clara blinked, taken aback. "Your serious degrees don't matter to me," Ethan replied. "My focus lies on achieving outcomes and embodying bravery." "You possess both." She paused before responding. Instead, she gazed intently at her hands. Her silence lingered, extending beyond what anyone had anticipated. At last she whispered, "I am thankful. Indeed. However, I require some time to reflect." Ethan found himself taken aback. He had anticipated a yes, or at the very least a surge of enthusiasm. "Certainly," he replied with a soft tone. "Feel free to proceed at your own pace." Yet, as she prepared to depart, an expression flickered across her face, hesitation tinged with a hint of fear. That night, Clara found herself wide awake in her modest rented room, the shadows dancing around her as thoughts swirled in her mind. She gazed up at the ceiling, the offer echoing in her thoughts. It was not the job that filled her with dread. It encompassed all that lay in its wake. Her mother's voice reverberated within her mind. "No man desires a girl who conceals herself behind screens. Families are not formed in that way." Yet another recollection, her father's head, shaking in disapproval, a look of disappointment etched across his face. "In the end, you may find yourself isolated, financially struggling, and filled with resentment. Technology will not be your salvation." She had battled fiercely to silence those whispers. Yet at this moment, as opportunity finally approached, their voices rang out with unprecedented intensity. What if she fell short of expectations? What if the instant she crossed the threshold into her first real job, the world around her suddenly saw through the facade, unveiling her as a fraud? Her heart raced with fervor. Fear gripped her heart, not a tale of failure, but rather one of validating their beliefs. Yet deep within her chest, the old fire continued to flicker. Once there was a part of her that would linger in the quiet hours immersed in coding forums, finding joy in debugging and envisioning the creation of her own algorithms. Perhaps she believed that the dream still lingered untouched by time. Perhaps it lingered in the shadows, patiently anticipating a moment, and a heart willing to trust. Yet the question lingered, was she truly prepared to have faith in her own abilities? That question stood out as the most challenging of them all. On a Saturday afternoon, the early spring sunshine enveloped everything in a warm embrace. The city park hummed gently with the vibrancy of life. Amidst the laughter of children gleefully sliding down, couples meander with their dogs while the elderly bask in the soft embrace of the sun from their cozy perches on scattered benches. Ethan Pierce, clad in a hoodie and jeans for a change, grasped the tiny hand of his 4-year-old daughter Lily as they meandered along the twisting paths by the duck pond. Lily tended to keep her words close, especially in the company of those she didn't know well. With her mother's quiet nature woven into her being, and Ethan's intense eyes piercing through the mundane, she often absorbed the world around her through a lens of silent observation. As they rounded the bend, she grasped his hand and gestured eagerly. "Daddy," she whispered, "the lady possesses the very book that captivates my interest." Ethan turned his attention to where she was looking. On a bench nestled beneath a blossoming tree, Clara found her place. With her blonde hair, loosely tied strands danced in the gentle breeze while she immersed herself in the pages of a weathered paperback. In that moment, she radiated a tranquility that Ethan had never witnessed until now. Without a mop bucket or the harsh glare of fluorescent lights, it was just her and the unfolding tale. Lily released his hand and with unwavering determination approached the bench. Ethan's eyelids fluttered momentarily. "Lily, hold on." Yet the moment had passed. Beside Clara, his daughter stood, her eyes curiously scanning the pages of the book. Clara glanced upward, momentarily taken aback, before a smile spread across her face. A smile that radiates warmth and sincerity. "Hi," she said softly. Lily remained silent. She ascended beside her, tucking her legs beneath her as she fixed her gaze on the book. With a soft chuckle, Clara reached into her bag and retrieved a small wrapped candy. "Would you care for one?" she inquired. Lily nodded, cradling it in her hands as if it were a precious treasure. From afar, Ethan observed, filled with wonder. His daughter seldom opened her heart to others with such ease, and yet here she sat curled up next to a woman she hardly recognized, as if they had shared a lifetime of camaraderie. Moments later, Ethan made his way over. "I hope she's not bothering you," he remarked. Clara lifted her gaze, her eyes wide with surprise, yet filled with warmth. "Absolutely not. Her taste in books is truly exceptional. She truly does," he said, a grin spreading across his face. "I'm truly impressed." Weeks often pass before she musters the courage to utter a simple hello to someone new. Lily gently pulled at Clara's sleeve. "Daddy, is it okay if she joins us for dinner?" Ethan arched an eyebrow, a flicker of curiosity dancing across his face. Ultimately, the decision rests in her hands. Clara paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Deep down, she felt an undeniable urge to refuse. This realm was not meant for her. She felt out of place amidst the casual dinners with CEOs and their children. But then Lily gazed up at her with wide, hopeful eyes, the sort that had yet to learn the art of judgment. With a timid gesture, Clara offered a shy nod. All right, just for a brief moment. They found themselves at a quaint diner, nestled on a corner street, a modest establishment adorned with red booths and laminated menus. Lily firmly chose her spot, nestled between the two adults, and the conversation began to flow leisurely and unhurried, as if it were a gentle stream finding its way through the landscape. Initially, it was straightforward. Lily had a penchant for reading. In the tranquil pond, a group of ducks glided gracefully across the water's surface. She held a strong aversion to broccoli, Yet in that moment a change began to unfold. Ethan recounted the heart-wrenching tale of losing his beloved wife to an illness, a sorrowful chapter that unfolded shortly after Lily celebrated her second birthday. He wrestled with the challenges of bedtime stories, the delicate grasp of tiny hair clips, and the muted joy of birthday cakes that seemed too still. Clara listened intently, her gaze gentle yet enigmatic. When he inquired about her tale, she began to share it with him. In a time not so distant, she found herself residing in a cramped, rented closet tucked away behind the bustling hum of a laundromat. She had toiled through 3 jobs, all for the sake of acquiring second-hand textbooks. At times, the greatest struggle lay not in the depths of poverty, but in the shadows of invisibility. Ethan listened, his demeanor reflecting not pity, but a deep-seated respect. He perceived the strength concealed within her softness, the sharp mind cloaked in modesty. She was not merely existing, she was embracing the journey of learning and nurturing her hopes. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Clara sensed a shift within herself. She was no longer just a janitor or a dropout. She was recognized as a person with value, someone who had something meaningful to contribute. After what felt like an eternity, they stepped into the refreshing embrace of the cool night air. Lily clasped Clara's hand tightly as they made their way to the car. As dawn broke, Ethan found himself at the kitchen table, a warm cup of coffee cradled in his hands, when suddenly his phone buzzed, breaking the morning's tranquility. A message unfolds, hailing from Clara. It said, "I never imagined I would find myself at a place like Bright Vision, yet your words resonate with me and I am eager to give it a shot. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me." Ethan wore a smile that lit up his face. In certain moments, a life could be transformed by the simple combination of a book, a bench, and a little girl who held on to the hope that there were tales more enchanting than those flickering on the screen. Silently, yet with great force, the transition unfolded. On a quiet Monday morning, Clara arrived not with a flourish, but rather with a second-hand laptop cradled under her arm and her hair neatly pulled back into a ponytail. Though her ID badge proclaimed her as a contract consultant in tech support, to many she remained simply the janitor. In her part-time role with the data analytics team, Clara found herself immersed in the intricate world of logic error detection, focusing her efforts on the back-end systems. Over the years, the company's platform had evolved into a complex tapestry woven together with a myriad of patchwork solutions. Stepping inside felt akin to wandering into a dwelling crafted by an array of architects, each with their own vision, yet Clara perceived it through a different lens. In the midst of turmoil, she perceived a hidden order, just waiting to be revealed. During meetings, as senior staff delved into complex issues with intricate graphs and a flurry of acronyms, she would quietly interject afterward, skillfully reframing the problem in straightforward language. "It's akin to dispatching a letter, yet neglecting to include the zip code," she remarked, gesturing towards a malfunctioning API routing sequence. "It's not broken, it's merely misplaced." New hires frequently seek her out, captivated by her calm presence and her talent for explaining things with kindness and without a hint of judgment. One intern, having received Clara's assistance in resolving a crash loop, whispered in awe. Yet not everyone shared his admiration. Behind her back, a few mid-level managers exchanged scoffs, their disdain palpable in the air. In the break rooms and through the Slack channels, murmurs began to weave their way through the air. Transitioning from mopping floors to diving into data analysis, it must be quite a privilege to bask in the CEO's sympathy. Perhaps she is merely a pet project. Clara was attuned to every whisper and murmur around her. With ears attuned to the faintest whispers, she remained silent, holding her secrets close. Instead, she arrived early, lingered late, and tirelessly tackled the challenges that others had no time to unravel. It was then that the Wednesday review meeting arrived. Once a month, consultants gathered to present their innovative efficiency models, each one aiming to enhance and streamline the internal operations of the organization. A team composed entirely of Ivy League graduates embarked on a 15-minute presentation laden with jargon and adorned with flowcharts. By the halfway mark, a glaze settled over the eyes. A junior manager let out a long, drawn-out yawn. Ethan maintained a courteous smile, yet he found himself drifting away from the conversation. In that moment, Clara rose to her feet. With a serene demeanor, she approached the whiteboard, removed the cap from a marker, and carefully crafted a solitary box in the middle. Your user spoke, declaring, "This is your user." She carefully sketched a few circles around it. Let me take you through the login process, the journey of making a purchase, and the workings of the recommendation engine. At this moment, she tapped the board. Each one is fine-tuned on its own rather than for the individual at the center. In that moment, silence enveloped the room, devoid of buzzwords and graphs, leaving only pure clarity in its wake. With careful precision, she traced arrows between the circles, reimagining the platform as a fluid journey that started and culminated in the user's experience, transcending mere back-end logic. As she concluded, a stillness enveloped the room. Not a single soul stirred. It began with a single clap, a solitary sound that echoed through the air, followed by another, and soon the entire room was alive with the thunderous roar of applause. Ethan lingered at the back, his hands still as he regarded her with a contemplative gaze. It transcended mere admiration. It was something far more profound, perhaps respect, acknowledgement. As the meeting drew to a close, Ethan made his way to her by the coffee machine. He spoke softly, noting that you hadn't merely outlined the issue. You inspired their concern. Clara glanced upwards, a touch bashful, yet tinged with amusement. All I sought was for them to grasp the meaning. He nodded. This is precisely what this place has been yearning for. On that particular night, Clara lingered longer than usual, a habit she had grown accustomed to. In the stillness of the office, she found her focus thriving in the embrace of silence. Yet there was a distinct change in the air. She had shed the feeling of being a mere visitor. She was a part of something greater. It wasn't merely her title that set her apart. It was the trust she had cultivated, a trust that no resume could ever procure. In a company brimming with chatter, she had demonstrated that even the softest voice could command the attention of the entire room. On a Wednesday afternoon, just 3 days prior to the eagerly awaited product launch, an event unfolded. Clara found herself at the helm of the final quality assurance sweep, a task demanding her keen eye for detail as she meticulously checked the data integrity before the new feature was set to go live. On the eve prior, she had raised a red flag regarding a possible conflict within the auto-sync protocol, diligently submitting a comprehensive report to the project leads. Yet no one took the initiative to follow up, and now in the midst of the live test, before investors and media partners, the system came to a standstill, not just once but twice. The chill had settled into the room. A soft murmur began to ripple through the group of managers. Whispers started to circulate, subtle at first, but soon became unmistakably pointed. Wasn't it her module? After all, she has just recently arrived, having spent only a handful of weeks in this place. What were your expectations? From the very start, I made it clear that this is the outcome when you bring someone on board who lacks formal training. Clara lingered at the edge of the room, her body unmoving as if caught in a moment suspended in time. The screens surrounding her flickered, displaying a cascade of errors. Every word, every doubt echoed in her ears. Her breath hitched in her throat. It was reminiscent of that moment when her mother declared she was squandering her life, just as her professor had once remarked. You lack the background to thrive in this field. Everything was reverberating through the air. Later that evening, a senior project manager made his way over to Ethan. It might be time to reflect on her position. She possesses remarkable talent, yet she carries an element of risk. Ethan remained silent. Under the cloak of night, Clara meticulously gathered her belongings, the air thick with unspoken thoughts. Upon departing, she placed her badge gently on her desk. There was no letter of resignation, only the silent retreat of a soul who had discovered time and again that the warmth of belonging was fleeting. Just as she approached the elevator, a faint voice echoed from behind her. Miss Clara Lily Ethan's daughter stood there in her pajamas, her small hands tightly gripping a drawing. This was crafted with you in mind. In the scene, stick figures stood beneath a vibrant rainbow, their simplicity capturing a moment of joy. In bold crayon letters it proclaimed, "Miss Clara is my hero." Clara sank to her knees, her gaze clouded with emotion. With trembling hands, she grasped the picture and pressed it close to her chest. "Thank you," she whispered softly. Lily offered a warm smile and enveloped her in a gentle embrace. Clara remained where she was. The following morning, she entered the meeting room badge, securely fastened her head, held high with confidence. She lingered, biding her time until the room brimmed with people. With a sense of quiet determination, she rose and unfolded the report she had dispatched days before. "I flagged this error before the test," she began, pointing to page 3, section 2. The text delineates precisely where the failure point would manifest should the auto-sync remain intertwined with the new feature. With a decisive click, she moved on to the next slide. Data lay before us, unmistakable and marked by time, confirmed in its authenticity, followed by a hush. Then whispers began to circulate. In that moment, Ethan rose to his feet. He cast his gaze toward the table of managers. His voice carried a serene strength, unwavering yet gentle. Next time, he remarked, "Pay attention to those who truly understand their craft. Calmness prevails with no shouts, only the essence of truth." Clara sensed a stirring within her chest, a sensation she had seldom experienced in spaces such as this. Affirmation. Not the kind you pleaded for, but the kind you toiled for and ultimately attained. For the first time, someone in a position of authority refrained from demanding an explanation from her. He lingered quietly beside her. In the days that ensued, a calmness settled in, appearing tranquil on the surface. Once the tempest of the product launch had subsided, a serene rhythm emerged, marked by the meticulous adjustments of post-release refinements, the gathering of user insights and the diligent checks of back-end stability. Yet beneath that familiar cadence, a delicate and novel essence was starting to emerge. After hours, Clara and Lily found themselves nearly inseparable. What started as a solitary stroll to the ice cream truck parked outside the office gradually evolved into a collection of cherished, almost sacred rituals. On a crisp early afternoon, two friends found themselves sharing a warm cup of hot chocolate. Then a tale unfolded, shared in a gentle voice beneath the sprawling branches of the great elm tree by the garden bench of the company. As the third week drew to a close, a rhythm emerged, one that was unspoken yet deeply cherished, quietly weaving its way into the fabric of healing. Once upon a time, there was a girl who embarked on an adventure to build her very own robot. As they sat cross-legged on a plaid picnic blanket, Clara would lean in and whisper softly. Lily's eyes would invariably sparkle with anticipation, indeed, but only if she chooses to call it Waffles. With a playful chuckle, Clara tapped the girl's nose. Agreed. Thus we shall call it Robot Waffles. In that moment, they inhabited a realm uniquely theirs, woven from the threads of laughter and soft inquiries. On one of those sun-drenched afternoons, as they savored a cup of melting strawberry swirl, Lily glanced up with her curious eyes and inquired, "Miss Clara, why doesn't your house have anyone like Daddy and me?" The question emerged untainted by judgment, infused with a sense of pure, childlike wonder. Clara's spoon hung in the air, caught in a moment of stillness. With a fleeting look at Lily, she turned her gaze towards the trees, their branches dancing softly in the wind. For a fleeting instant, the gentle murmur of laughter and the sweet melody of birdsong wove through the quiet space that lay between them. "I once had a family," Clara finally said, her voice low and steady. "Yet they doubted my ability to achieve greatness, and so I took my leave. Perhaps they departed in a manner unique to them." Lily blinked slowly, her head resting gently against Clara's arm, a silence enveloping them both. Her subtle action conveyed everything. Little did they know Ethan had been observing from just a short distance away. He arrived with Lily's water bottle in hand, yet halted in his tracks as he caught wind of the conversation unfolding before him. Something within him constricted not from sympathy, but from a sense of understanding. He had experienced loss as well. Disapproval lingered in the air, a heavy shroud of isolation enveloping the surroundings. In that moment, as he stood there, his gaze fell upon something entirely different. A connection blossoming between his daughter and this subtly remarkable woman. As the evening unfolded, the city transformed into a canvas of amber hues, with office lights beginning to flicker to life. Ethan accompanied Clara to the subway stop, their footsteps echoing softly in the growing twilight. The sidewalk hummed softly, with the pulse of life, yet their steps were deliberate, unhurried. He took a moment to clear his throat. "Would you care to join me for dinner?" Clara cast a sidelong glance, her eyes betraying a flicker of surprise. "Are you referring to the challenges we face with scaling the database?" His laughter rang out a warm and disarming melody that filled the air. "What I'm referring to is dinner. Just two individuals leaving the business chatter behind. Perhaps three, should we allow the little chaperone to accompany us." On that evening, nestled in a quaint bistro sandwiched between two bookstores, they partook in a meal that transcended mere sustenance, delving instead into the act of unlocking doors they had both believed were forever closed. There was no conversation about analytics projections or user interfaces. Instead, they delved into topics seldom voiced in the open. Ethan opened up about his deep-seated fear of raising Lily on his own. He often found himself second-guessing every decision, feeling pulled in every direction between endless meetings and the precious moments of bedtime stories. The weight of being both a father and a provider pressed heavily on him, leaving him with a lingering sense of inadequacy in both roles. He reminisced about his late wife, the times he still sought her in the quiet of night, and the struggle to find a smile when his heart felt incomplete, missing its other half. Clara listened, her gaze gentle and unwavering. In that moment she revealed her own truths, not through theatrics, but with a serene bravery. She recounted the night spent in a storage unit, the sting of her revoked scholarship still fresh, the cafeteria job that barely covered a single programming course, the late-night hours spent scrolling through online classes, her fingers raw from mopping, yet her mind insatiably eager for knowledge. And she recounted it not as a tragedy, but as a journey forged through choice and determination. In that fleeting moment, nestled between the warmth of a second glass of chamomile tea and the lingering hush that followed a hearty laugh, Ethan extended his hand across the table. He grasped her hand not in the manner of a superior or a patron, but as a man who recognized the value of a woman who had mastered the art of illuminating her own path. Clara cast her gaze upon their intertwined fingers for a fleeting moment before lifting her eyes to meet his. In his gaze she found neither expectations nor pity, only a profound sense of peace. In her touch, Ethan discovered a feeling long absent from his life hope. Half a year had passed, and the ambience at Bright Vision had shifted in ways both subtle and undeniable. The once sterile intensity that enveloped the data lab had gradually transformed into a warmer, more collaborative atmosphere. During lunch breaks, laughter filled the air more often. Without a prompt, engineers stepped forward to mentor interns, offering their guidance and support willingly. And from time to time, a voice would emerge, whether from an assistant or a seasoned tech lead, suggesting, "Hey, let's run this by Clara. She possesses a remarkable ability to illuminate the complexities of life." Clara Blake, who once mopped the very floors she now traversed, with a serene command, occupied the head of a long rectangular table in the strategy room. With deft fingers, she navigated the intricate flowcharts and graphs, her gaze darting through the streams of code and performance data. The room buzzed with life, yet a hush enveloped her, as if the world had paused, granting her a moment of solitude amidst the crowd. In the stillness they waited, their ears attuned, honoring the silence that enveloped them. Her nameplate now proclaimed Team Lead Data Intelligence. Yet her desk whispered a tale of its own. A ceramic mug from a thrift store, its rim chipped and worn, surrounded by a flurry of post-it notes in vibrant hues, each adorned with playful doodles by lily stick robots, frolicking and cheerful suns, beaming with joy. She donned her familiar sneakers, the same cardigan with its frayed cuffs, and her ponytail was secured just as it had always been. Yet it was not about her attire. Her words now bore a heavy significance, accompanied by a silent trust that trailed her with each step she took. She always spoke softly, her voice a gentle whisper that carried the weight of her thoughts. She had no need to. She brought 2 sandwiches to lunch, one carefully wrapped in wax paper as a thoughtful gesture for anyone who might forget theirs. She guided the interns through the process of debugging their scripts, always sitting beside them, never looming over them. Whenever someone found it difficult to understand a system concept, she would lean in and suggest, let's consider it like plumbing. Data flows like a river winding through the landscape of information. In the event that a blockage occurs in the pipe, the initial point of inspection would be the most obvious entry or exit points where the obstruction is likely to manifest first. And so Friday arrived. The expansive conference room of the company brimmed with attendees, every inch occupied. As the lights began to fade, a subtle hush fell over the room. The murmur of voices faded, giving way to a palpable sense of expectation. Ethan Pierce stood at the front, impeccably dressed, exuding calm and confidence. With a careful sweep of his gaze, he surveyed the crowd before uttering a word. It's the sort of vision that recognizes potential long before the rest of the world even begins to notice. He took a moment to pause. In this world, some individuals have always held the keys, granted the privilege to speak first and be seen first. In contrast, others have had to struggle and battle just to gain a moment of recognition. Individuals who have been informed that they are outsiders, deemed too impoverished, insufficiently qualified, or simply too commonplace. A silence enveloped the scene. It is with great pride that I share the launch of Bright Vision's latest division, a training and development branch dedicated to discovering and cultivating talent that often lacks the shine of a polished resume. A realm where individuals ascend not due to their beginnings, but through the potential they possess. As he stood there, the projector screen flickered to life behind him. Clara Blake, the director of the Bright Future Initiative. For a heartbeat, the room fell into a profound silence. Then, as if a gentle ripple had transformed into a powerful wave, applause erupted, resonant, heartfelt, enduring. Clara rose gradually, her emotions evident on her face. Her eyes roamed over the throng of people. A diverse assembly of engineers, marketing executives, receptionists, cleaning crew, and interns comes together, each playing a vital role in the intricate tapestry of the workplace. Some wore smiles, while others had glistening tears in their eyes. Each and every one of them rose to their feet, clapping in unison. With a gentle hand resting over her heart, she nodded once, then gracefully settled back into her seat, her eyes sparkling with emotion. As the evening wore on and the bustle of the building faded, Clara found herself lingering in her new office, perched one level above the floor she had once scrubbed during those quiet midnight shifts. The city lights sprawled before her, a breathtaking tapestry of brilliance that seemed to go on forever. In a time long past, they had seemed beyond reach. This evening, they sparkled as if reunited after many years apart. With a soft creak, the door swung open. She pivoted. Ethan entered the room, his hands casually tucked into his pockets, the tie around his neck hanging loosely. "It was a big day," he remarked, a smile spreading across his face. With a sigh that surprised her, she released a breath she hadn't realized was trapped within her. It was beyond my wildest imagination that this could actually come to pass. He approached her, his hand resting softly on her shoulder. Indeed it is, and thus it came to be. She pivoted to confront him completely, a wave of emotion dancing in her eyes. You had faith in me when I was blind to my own potential. He gently shook his head. I found it hard to believe. I beheld. That stands apart. They stood there, the silence enveloping them heavy with all the words that had never been spoken. Thank you, she whispered softly. Thank you, he replied, his voice roughened, for staying, for showing us who you are. At that moment, the soft patter of footsteps echoed as they hurried down the hallway. Miss Clara Lilly burst into the room, her voice echoing as her backpack jostled energetically behind her. Ah, you're still here? Clara knelt, her arms unfolding like petals in bloom. Indeed I am. Lily's face lit up as she eagerly pressed a Tupperware container into her hands. Cookies were brought by me. Daddy says today is a special day for the grown-ups. Amidst the gathering, a wave of laughter erupted, filling the air with a sense of joy and camaraderie. Ethan extended his arm, a gesture of invitation and camaraderie. As Clara prepared to leave, her gaze shifted from his face to the way Lily's hand gently encircled hers. With a gentle smile, she nodded in agreement. They stepped out of the building not merely as CEO and team lead, but as something greater, as something complete, as family. Should this tale have awakened something profound within you, if it has echoed the truth that bravery often resides in subtle instances and that occasionally those who are easily overlooked shine with the most radiant light, know that you are not solitary in this experience. Clara's journey from being overlooked to becoming a force to be reckoned with reveals that no dream is ever truly beyond reach. It only requires a single individual to have faith, a fleeting moment of bravery, and an instant of recognition. Should you hold faith in the transformative nature of tales that mend, uplift, and illuminate the inherent kindness within us all, we warmly welcome you to become a part of our expanding community. Join the journey with soul-stirring stories and ensure you never overlook a narrative that resonates deeply and elevates the spirit. For it is often the case that the perfect tale delivered at just the right moment has the power to transform everything.